All right, now it should be working. Now it should be working. Now it should be working. I gotta delete the old one, don't I? Hold up. I'm gonna do this real quick. I promise. It's fine. Everything's fine. I gotta delete the old live stream. Hold up, I gotta delete the old live stream. It was 38 seconds long anyway. It doesn't matter. Just put the private that video real quick. Oh, cancel. Okay. Boom. Okay, we're back. Don't check Discord. Yeah, I won't. Everything's fine. Okay. So, Windows S tier. Yeah, we'll get to Windows in a second. We'll get to Windows in a second. All right. I don't know I don't know much about Survivor. I'm guessing you don't, but there's some people that do. There's some people that do. Okay, so here we go. Survivor winners tier list. We have S, which is best winners ever. So I mean, you know, if you're one of like the best winners ever, best players, whatever, you're an S. A is like, you know, you did pretty good, but there are some pretty big flaws in your game. B is like, I probably would have voted for you still, but I can point out a good amount of flaws. C is where it's probably starting to get like, I probably wouldn't have not voted for you to win. So, and then F is like, there's no way you should have even gotten the win. And then we got literally voted outlaw, which there's only one winner in Survivor history that has ever been voted out, and we'll get to him in a second because yeah, he's the only person that ever got voted out that also won. But I guess I'll get to the rules for a second. So a lot of these winners, actually, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh my gosh, 9, 10, 11, 12, I guess 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. So yeah, 28 out of these winners have actually played again. So, I mean, the way I look at it, the way I'm going to rank these winners is I'm going to rank them on the game that they played during the season they won. So let's say, I don't know, Sarah. She won Game Changers. Her Kagayan season, the first season she played, is not going to come into account. Obviously, if you've won twice, only 2 people have. Sandra, I'll rank her Pearl Islands game individually, and I'll rank Sandra's Heroes vs. Villains game individually, and Tony's Winners at War and Tony's Kagayan game. Both are ranked individually, and I need to fix that. Okay. So, with all that being said, the way I rank these winners is I don't rank them on level of dominance. I'll rank them as how good of a player I thought they were that season. So obviously JT, I thought played obviously very, very well in Tocantins, but he obviously didn't play well in Heroes vs. Villains or Game Changers. But that won't matter because only the winning game, the season they won, matters. So let's get right into it. All right, so Richard Hatch, the first ever winner. I would love to put him in S tier, but I can't. I'm gonna put him in B. I would have voted for him still, but there are a couple. Actually, he's hovering between A. I might put him in A just because of how well he played the game, for to for season 1. I mean, he played the game very well for season 1. I'm leaning between these two because there are a good couple of flaws with him. Like I don't think he played the best socially, and also obviously that he almost lost the game. It was a 4-3 vote, mind you. I think his tribal council performance probably actually flipped some people to vote for Kelly, and that's obviously not good. But never once did he need individual immunity. He never needed an idol, which wasn't even in the seasons at the time. But there are a good couple flaws. I think his tribal council performance is okay, but there's a couple of things that weren't that good. But yeah, I'll put him in B. Tina Weston, I'll put in A. I think that obviously Houston too, she played a good game, but I can't really fault her game too much. I mean, she was basically in the dominant alliance the entire way through, and no matter what, she was going to get to the final two. I mean, basically, like from very early on, she basically made an alliance where no matter what happened, she was going to get to the final two. Both Colby and Keith would have taken her to the final two. And I think that's pretty impressive. But I think that I can't put an S just because I think other people have played better than her. But I can't really say anything that bad about her. Let's see what people are saying. Are Blastron's the best survivor? Yes, obviously. Blastron's the best survivor player. He won. Ethan, I guess I'll put in B because if Ethan got his way, he would have lost the game. Ethan was the second in command to Lex, which he wanted to bring Lex to the end. And if he brings Lex to the end, mind you, I think it's pretty close. I think it's like a 4-3 vote. I do think that Ethan loses to Lex. So if Ethan got his way, he would have lost, which obviously that isn't good. That's why he's in B. But he was like the first ever like nice guy to win. Like I think all the jury liked him. It's just that some people just wanted to vote for Kim over him, and it was a 5-2 vote, so it wasn't that close. But I got to give him props for being the first person to ever throw a challenge. He actually threw a challenge, so I think to get rid of Silas, or at least one of those guys. I kind of forgot. It's been a while since I rewatched Africa. But he was the first ever person to throw a challenge to help him in the game. I think that's really impressive, especially for Season 3. I mean, that was pretty unprecedented at the time. And I think he was also, I think he was part of the first ever tribe swap. So that's also pretty cool. First ever person to throw a challenge, or at least first ever person to admit they threw a challenge. So, yeah. I don't really know what to do with Vesepia. Because I think, like, for a while, she wasn't at majority lines, but she was able to get people to flip. Like, there was the first ever big flip happened in Marquesas, which was when they flipped on the road to 4. And I think that's pretty impressive. And the fact that she was able to stay there, I mean, mind you, one of those was because she won immunity, so she couldn't get voted out. But her being able to survive as long as she could, even though she was on the bottom of the lines, and then going on to win the game, even though the Road to 4 knew Nalia more than they knew Vesepia, I think that's really impressive. And I mean, I think she's a better player than probably Ethan, but I don't think I can put her in A. I might. I don't know. I'll put her in A for right now, but we'll see what happens later. Okay, so Brian Heidick, I know a lot of people like say he's one of the best winners ever, but I think I think he played the game very well. But the thing is, Brian Heidick brought the first ever GOAT to a tribal council, which was Clay, and he almost lost. His final tribal council performance was abysmal. It was very bad because he almost lost to a player that he brought to the final 3 because he thought he could beat him in the final 3. And if Ken reveals information that he knew about Brian at the final tribal council, then Brian obviously loses the game. I just think as much as Brian did a good job of dominating the game, he almost lost to a GOAT, and I think that just speaks to how bad he was socially. So if he won more dominantly, maybe a 5-2 vote, he probably would have been an S. Obviously, he's a bad person, but I'm not going to take that into account. I'm taking into his game. Okay, so Jenna Marask, I think, is the first person out of the first winner that I would have voted for the other person at Final Tribal Council. But I mean, I both thought they played pretty bad games. But Jenna literally wanted to quit the game. I think that's why I put her on S, because she wanted to quit the game. She wanted them to vote her out at one point, and that's really bad. And I don't think she really played that good of a game. I think she just kind of won by default because Matthew was there. If she loses, I think maybe she might win against Butch, I guess. But she loses to basically everyone else, and that's really bad. And also that she wanted to quit, that's not good either. So that she's an F. Okay, first time we talk about Sandra. I think Sandra played pretty poorly. Like I don't really think she did that much to help her game. Because I mean, obviously she yelled at Johnny Fairplay, which when Johnny Fairplay's on the jury, that's not good. But the other person there was Lil, so I mean, you know, you can't lose against Lil. That's basically impossible. But like, she didn't do that much to help her out, and I think she just kind of wins by default because Lil's there. I think if Johnny Fairplay wins, she might slightly beat him, but against everyone else, she loses to them. And I think that's another winner, kind of like Jenna, where she just kind of wins by default because a more hated person is there in Lil. I mean, none of the jury liked Lil, and the only Lil vote I'm pretty sure by Tijuana, I think that was her name, was an anti-Sandra vote. So it's pretty hard to rank Sandra's Pearl Islands game. I don't think she did that much. Obviously, it wasn't the domineering alliance. That's good, but she got blindsided when Rupert went home. So that's not good. All right, Amber. Amber has to be one of the worst winners in Survivor history. I mean, she was a second in command to Boston Rob, and from the TV show, we see that Boston Rob basically makes all decisions. I know that Boston Rob has said after the show that him and Amber were making the no, I don't have a Discord. We're making the decisions, but it's very apparent that it was all Boston Rob's work. Like, and the thing is, Amber doesn't win because the jury thinks she plays better. She wins because the jury didn't want to vote for Boston Rob. The only pro Amber vote was by Sheehan because Sheehan, for some reason, thought that Amber was the person making the decisions, which I have no idea why that is. But she's one misconception away from losing the game. The only reason why she won the game is because the jury just didn't want Rob to win. It's not because they liked her. It's because they didn't want Rob to win. If anyone else is there, they'd be like, we don't want Rob to win, so we're just going to vote for this other person. And that being Amber, a person who basically did nothing the entire game besides be with Boston Rob, that's really bad. Another thing is that, unlike Natalie White, which we'll get to in a second, Natalie White's basically like Amber, but but Natalie White actively knew what she was doing. She knew that Russell would most likely lose a jury vote. That's why she stuck by Russell. Amber stays with Boston Rob because she loves Boston Rob. Boston Rob her get married after the show. So I think Chris Daughtry is like the first S. I mean, he plays the game so masterfully in Vanderbilt. He's probably one of the best players out of the first 9 seasons. I mean, he's able to make the Fat Five lines, which was really funny, and turn on the younger guys, making everyone want to vote out the more physical guys. I mean, that's impressive. That's so impressive. And he was also able to, after the merge, even though all the other guys got voted out, he was still able to stay alive. He convinced all the women to take him to the end, and that's super. And despite him burning a bunch of bridges with Eliza, with Julie, they still vote for him over Twyla. And mind you, I think that's probably because they hated Twyla a lot. But still, he's able to get Twyla to the end, and he wins. And I find it so impressive that even though like from pretty early on in the merge, he was the final guy standing, he still was able to get to the very end. He played the merge so masterfully. It's so impressive to watch his game, and I'm so sad that Chris was not brought back for Winners at War. I can think of a couple people that I would have way much like Ben. I think Ben could have gotten replaced with Chris. So, yeah, Chris, S tier. And right after that, Tom Westman is S tier. And Tom Westman is probably the most dominant player. I mean, his tribe only went to tribal council once before the merge, and that's only because they had to. Like, both tribes were going to go to tribal council. It didn't matter who won the challenge. The only reason why Koror goes to tribal council before the merge is because there was no other option. And I find that so impressive. He's able to just take control over Koror from the very beginning, and then the entire merge just completely dominates the game. And he only loses control at like the final 4. I think he probably gets voted off there, but he wins immunity. And then in the final 3, he plays the final 3 so masterfully. He gets Ian. He basically just plays a bunch of mining games with Ian at the very last challenge, making Ian feel bad for Tom, and makes Ian want to give up his game so he can still have a friendship with Tom. That's so impressive. And then obviously he basically wins unanimously with only, and the only reason that I even forgot the other finals. And the only reason why she gets the vote is because Kobe didn't like Tom. He tells her at the final tribal council. He says, "If I write your name down, it's not a vote for you. It's a vote against Tom." And I just find that very, very impressive. All right. I think Danny is an A. Obviously, her run in Winners at War is not that good, but her run in Guatemala is very good. Even though she was on the bottom coming into the merge, she still gets to the final too. I mean that's very impressive. Somehow she gets Stephanie and Rafe to vote off Lydia instead of her, which I mean which is crazy because Lydia 100% does not win the final three challenge, making it Stephanie and Rafe, which they wanted that's what they wanted to happen. Stephanie wanted to take Rafe to the end, and I think Rafe did too, but somehow Danny's able to flip them into voting for Lydia. That's so impressive. And then also the fact that Danny wins against Stephanie, a returning player, that's also really good. I think she just plays the game very well this season. Obviously, she does not play good at Winners at War. She gets voted off third there. But she plays this season so well. Despite being on the bottom, she actually replaces some of the members of their alliance, which I have no idea how that happened so early into Survivor. This was still only season 11. Good winner. Aris? I don't really know what to do with Aris. Because, like, I mean, he didn't do that much, I don't think. I mean, I think I still probably would have voted. I mean, I might have actually voted for Danielle over Aris. I just Aris is first of all one of the most forgettable winners. Like who remembers Aris won Survivor, right? But I do think that he wins against Cirie if he gets to the end. But I think that's probably the only final three that happens. I don't really know any other final three that he wins it. And this is another winner where he kind of just wins by default because Carrie isn't there. I mean, I guess he was part of that alliance coming in, but and he did get rid of everyone else. And I guess the only thing that kind of fault, I mean, I might actually move him to B because he was part of that majority alliance, even though I think he was kind of on the outs at the very beginning. He was able to get into that majority alliance, and the only reason why it kind of turned on him is because Terry won immunity after immunity after immunity. And the only reason why Terry stays is because of the Super Idol, which we'll talk about the Super Idol a bit later. But I just don't really know what to do with Aris. It's just really weird. Alright, Yul is an A tier. I mean, the only knock I really have against Yul's like game is that like what would have happened if Yul didn't have the Super Idol? I think that was probably the biggest reason why they didn't ever try to vote off Yul or like Ozzy or anyone is because he had the Super Idol. But we don't know what happens if he doesn't have the Super Idol. So I mean, I gotta put him here, right? I mean, if he doesn't have the Super Idol, though, I think he does get voted out eventually. That's the only knock I have against him. But I can't really knock it against him because the Super Idol was part of the game. So, yeah, Yul got the Super Idol. He was able to use the Super Idol to mess with get in people's heads. Very impressive how he was able to do that. I think that Yul, but the thing is, Yul almost loses. And Yul would have lost, actually, to Ozzy if Adam hadn't made that deal with him. Because after the season, Adam does say that he wanted to vote for Ozzy, but because he made a promise to Yul, he votes for Yul. I just like Yul almost loses the game despite being a very, very good player, which I think just kind of shows how bad his final tribal was. I don't think he did that much in his favors with his final tribal council. I think a lot of things actually kind of hurt him in his final tribal council performance, but still wins the game. Earl Cole is an S, despite being on the Rabu tribe. I think that's the one lost every single challenge after the tribe swap. He was actually able to get in the majority alliance, and then he basically becomes a figurehead of that alliance. And then he the first and one of the biggest moves ever, which is forgotten about, which I'm so sad that it's forgotten about, is the first ever like trick idol play where Earl Cole tricks Alex into playing the idol for himself, but they vote off someone else instead. That's the first ever time where they didn't target the most dangerous player. They actively chose to target someone else instead. to trick the idol holder and the planet idol from himself. I think you got to give Earl Cole that. That's really cool. He was able to do that, and then he's the first ever. Well, he actually didn't win. He didn't actually have a perfect game. He got one vote against him, but it was a throwaway vote. And then he won in the jury unanimously. I think he's a great player. I mean, I think Todd is probably S tier winner because I can't really, say anything bad about his game. He was able to vote off James with 2 idols in his pockets. That's crazy, and he was in the majority the entire way through. And also, I find it so interesting how he's able to convince Denise to stay with him when PG and Eric make it abundantly clear that they're going to vote her off. I find it so impressive that he's still able to keep her with him. And that is probably because Denise is probably not the best player ever, but I think Todd did have some part of that. He's able to keep control of the entire game. He basically makes all the decisions. Yeah, he gets S tier. The reason why Parvati's game isn't as good as a lot of people say is that I think a lot of people forget that Parvati was going to be the first person voted off if Johnny Fairplay did not quit the game. And that is a very big, humongous knock against her, that she was going to be voted off first if Johnny Fairplay hadn't quit. And, I mean, obviously, she couldn't have done anything about it. Like, that's really bad. But after that, she makes one of the most dominant alliances ever and makes good moves. Although, I think a lot of people give Parvati too much credit for Eric giving up immunity, as she's the one that does the least for it. Suri comes up with the decision, and Natalie does, like, the convincing. Parvati really had nothing to do with that. I don't know why people give her so much credit for that. I think she doesn't deserve to get that much credit for it. I think Suri and Natalie do. Oh well. She still plays the game very masterfully. She gets A. Bob Crowley. I think I still would have voted for Bob, but Bob was so clueless throughout the entire game. I mean, he gets replaced by Randy in the Onion Alliance, which, I mean, how? How does that even happen? Like, how do you get replaced with Randy in Alliance? That's very worrisome. But I just think he was just really, mind you, I was rooting for him because I liked him as a character, but he was so clueless. And the fake idol, like, I don't know why he thought that was a good idea, because Randy was gonna go home anyway. There was no reason why he needed to give Randy a fake idol, but he does, and it almost cost him the game. The only reason why Randy just votes her anyway is because he just didn't like Susie. If Randy just liked Susie a bit more, he votes for Susie, Bob loses the game. Which I think I probably would have had more problems with Susie, honestly, if she won the game. But still, the fact that he, like, that idol, the fake idol, like, so clearly hurts his game, but he does it anyway. It's like, why? Why would you do that? Why? But I'm done with you, Bob. Let's go to JT. I think he's an S tier winner as well. Remember, only counting his Tocantins run. We're not counting his Game Changers or Heroes vs. Villains run. But he just takes control of the entire game. He never gets one vote for him, and he gets a unanimous jury vote. He's the perfect winner. I think that's like pretty much automatically puts you as an S tier winner. But I mean, it's so good because I think that honestly, I do think that Fishback probably played a better game than him. But the fact that JT, it's also his final tribal performance, is one of the best ones ever, and like he's just able to play this aw shucks type of country boy, and just makes the jury love him, even though he knew that Fishback probably played a better game than him. Very great. I just think he's the majority, basically all the game. I think all the decisions he makes were pretty good. The only thing I can knock him against is I guess he was going to get voted out if he didn't win immunity, but like that's like really like whatever. It's fine. He gets S tier. All right. I think Natalie is a slightly better winner than Amber, and here's why. Like I said, I think Natalie is basically like Amber, but she knew that Russell would most likely lose. So she just let Russell take control of the entire game, and she thought he would lose, and she's right. She wins the game. Obviously, like, she does absolutely nothing. Like, literally, she does nothing. I think you got to give her credit for the Eric blindside, I guess. I guess she does do that, but besides that, like, she does nothing the entire game, and just votes with Russell. Like, It's like, why would you do nothing the entire game? But like I said, she does actively use Russell instead of Amber, which Amber loved Boston Rob. So that's why I think she's a slightly better winner than Amber, but mind you, still bad winner. All right, second time winning Sandra's Heroes versus Villains game. I don't think I can put an S, but I think she plays more poorly. The thing is, Sandra wins Heroes versus Villains because none of her plans work. She tries to get Russell out the entire game, but fails. And because she fails, she wins the game. Like that's really bad. Like how do you do that? How do you actively like do the wrong move again and again and again and win the game? The only reason why she wins the game is because the jury just hated Russell. And I do think she gets some pro Sandra votes, but I think a lot of those are anti-Russell votes. Obviously, I would have voted for Russell, but it doesn't really matter that much. I think Sandra I played very poorly this season. I think more poorly than she did in Pearl Islands, but I still think like in Pearl Islands, she still didn't play that good. So yeah. Fabio, I guess I gotta put in C because I might put him in B because he was in on the votes for a good It's between B and C. I might just put him in C, but probably one of the better C tier winners. The thing is, like, that Fabio would have lost the game if he didn't go on that immunity run, which obviously hurts his game massively. But besides that, I think he played the game pretty well. I think his social skills were very good. I'll give him that. And I might actually move him up to B. I'm not sure because his social skills were obviously very, very good. So, well, I can't really say that much about Fabio. I haven't watched Nicaragua in a long time because I don't like Survivor Nicaragua. It's my second least favorite season. I want to put Boston Rob in S, but I can't. The thing, obviously, he plays one of the most dominant games in Survivor history, but like the players that he was playing with were very bad. They let Boston Rob do whatever he wanted to do. It was so easy for him to win. And like, if you're just looking at his game, like, yeah, he's like probably one of the better winning games, but like the cast he played with was basically just a bunch of zombies that did whatever he said. I'm really conflicted with this one because I think that Boston Rob is actually like a subpar player. I don't think he's actually that good of a player. Like most people think he's a good player. I don't think he's that good of a player. But I think if you're looking at his winning game alone, I guess I can't put him in S though. I'll put him in A, I guess. Sophie Clark, I guess I'll put it in C. Because like from the show, we obviously see that Coach is making all the decisions and Sophie is kind of just going with it. But I do think her tribal council performance is okay, but I think she mainly wins because Coach's tribal council performance was very bad. So, I just don't think she did that much to help her out. I think she basically just kind of did whatever Coach said. She went with that. But I do think her tribal council performance was pretty good, but I would have voted for Coach over her. All right, Kim Spradlin, probably one of the best. Actually, it might be the best winning game in Survivor history. She dominates the game the entire way through, never needs an idol, never needs to win an immunity. And the thing is, in Redemption Island, even though Boston Rob played a very dominant game, the jury didn't want to vote for him. They weren't happy about voting for him. The jury in One World were extremely happy. They were extremely happy to vote for Kim Spradlin. They were willing to vote for her. They were super happy to give her a win. They wanted her to win. And I find that very, very impressive. She dominates the entire game, never needs to. And the only reason why she doesn't get Troyzan's vote is because for some reason, Troyzan just hated Kim. I don't really know why. But also, Kim's from Texas, got to represent. So, yeah. I think Denise Snapely might be one of the underrated winners because, she went to every single tribal council the entire season and didn't get voted out. That's so impressive. That's crazy. She went to every single tribal council in the pre-merge, and obviously she went to every single tribal council in the merge, and never got voted out once. I do think the reason why she doesn't get to S is because she actively wanted to bring Malcolm to the final tribal council, where she obviously loses to Malcolm if he's in the final tribal council with her. But besides that, she's able to convince them to vote Abby out instead of her, which is like is crazy because Abby's probably one of the biggest goats in Survivor history, and they were able to convince. She was able to her and Malcolm were able to convince Scoop and Lisa to vote them out. That's insane. And then also her being able to like I guess convince Scoop that he thought he would win against her. I think Scoop is probably one of the players that thought he would win the most. I find her game very impressive though. Able to go to every single tribal council, not get voted out. Yeah, A. Cochran is like Boston Rob, where I would want to put him in S, but his cast was just a bunch of zombies willing to give him the win. Cochran didn't have to do that much, even though I mean he was in the majority alliance and he was making all the decisions. It wasn't that hard for him to make any of the decisions. Even though I think as a player he's really good, but as his winning game, he basically just slid through the game, making all the decisions, which I do think that's impressive, him being able to make all the decisions. He didn't have to do that much to make sure the decisions were going to go his way. But I do think his winning game is very impressive. Bro, we got a fanboy? Yeah, if Survivor's the best show. Not my fault. It's so crazy that a player like Tyson wins the game. Right? That's so crazy. I do think probably his biggest flaw in the game is losing Sierra. That's not good, but besides that, like everything else is very, very masterful. He's able to bring Jervis and Monica with them. Both, I think Monica only gets 1 vote, Jervis gets 0 votes. He makes all the decisions in the game with a cast of pretty competent players, actually. I mean, we have people like Hayden and Sierra, Laura, the cast of very competent players, and he's still able to get the win very dominantly as well. I find that very impressive. All right, Tony's first ever win is S, and his second ever win, by the way, is S as well. Tony's first ever win, obviously S tier. Even despite the fact that obviously he is the biggest target the entire game, he still gets to the end. And the thing is, he never once won immunity ever. And despite him being the biggest, target, he uses the idol so well, where he convinces everyone that he has a idol with secret powers that can be used after the vote's read, which that is true. But he's also able to convince them it can be used at the final 4, which it can't. I think that's very good. The way he uses idols, where he doesn't actually need to play them, but he still uses them, very, very impressive. And the fact that he's able to convince Wu to bring him to the final 2, that's so insane. Because, I mean, Wu knows that he is probably going to lose against Tony, and this is season 28. How does that happen? It's crazy. Obviously, Tony, good winner. Alright, Natalie's at S. I think even though she was on the outs for some of the votes, she was able to get back in the game. That Baylor blindside, one of the best moves ever in Survivor history, where it's like so good for the jury. She goes up to Chef and is like, Jacqueline, did you vote for I told you? Yes. And plays the idol for her. That's very impressive. She makes a lot of the calls. I think, obviously I would have voted for her. I think that she's an amazing winner, very good player. Obviously, she gets voted out first on Winners at War, which that is not good. But again, other seasons don't count. I mean, but obviously she does come back and get second place though, so it's fine. Now, even though if this was like by character, like if this was like character-based, Mike would be up here. As a winner, his winning game is... I can't put him in F. I can't put him in F. I think that I gotta put him in C. Even though I love Mike as a character, I think he's a great character. I love Mike. His winning game was not good. He was on the bottom. The thing is, Mike was on the top for most of the game, and he somehow ruins that and gets on the bottom. And the only reason why he gets to the end is because he wins immunity and plays idol for himself. That's not good. But his final tribal council performance is very good. But obviously, he makes so many mistakes in the game. Even though I love him as a character, I gotta put him down at C. I mean, Jeremy Collins is one of the best winners as well. And I'm running out of things to say, but again, dominated his entire way through. And the only time he gets votes, he negates them with an idol. He gets to the end. His final tribal council performance is so good. I mean, it's so good. And he just makes all the decisions throughout the entire game. I mean, the only time that I think that he was on the right side of the vote was the Wentworth, no, the Savage Tribal Council, where, I mean, obviously, Savage goes home only because an idol gets played. I mean, he makes all the decisions. He's able to bring Spencer and Cass to the end, and even though Spencer's like probably one of the most like best players out of that entire season, he still beat Spencer without Spencer getting any votes. It's great. Michelle F. I have no idea how she won. I mean, the reason why we have a new tribal council new tribal council format, is because she won. Like, really? I mean, I have no idea how she won. Like, it's first of all, I think after the season, it's been confirmed that she would have been the first to go if the beauties went to tribal council once. I mean, she hasn't gone to any tribal councils once before the merge, and I have no idea how she won. Like, I don't think her tribal council performance was that good. I really have no idea how she won. She would have gone home if Joe doesn't get medevac. She gets voted out. I like again. I have no idea how the jury thought she was a good player. I don't remember her doing really anything that good to win. And everyone's like, "Oh, Queen Michelle, Queen Michelle." Like no, she didn't do anything. I guess Adam Klein I'll put in B or C. The thing, I don't really know what Adam Klein did. He wasn't in the majority that much until like the final five, but I mean, I think he's a good player. I think that's the reason why he's in B, not C. I think he's a good player, but I just like his winning game was like so wonky and weird. Him having to go to rocks, that's cool, I guess, but like I don't really remember anything that Adam did. I do think his tribal council performance, his final tribal council performance, is really good. Obviously, bringing up his mom as cancer, very emotional for him, but I think it does help him. Obviously, he gets all of the votes. I do think that's good, but like, I guess you can say he convinced Ken to vote out David, but I do think that was more of Ken's actual decision than Adam's. But I mean, I guess we will like never know. It's whatever, I guess. But yeah, oh well. I think he's a good player, but his winning game is like very wonky. I don't really know what to talk about it. Sarah Osina, S tier. I think. I mean, very dominant player the entire way through. The only time that she would have gone home, I think, was the advantage get in tribal council, but that's like, yeah, that was so far off from happening of her actually getting voted out. I mean, she knew she had to play that thing. It was fine, I guess. I mean, her tribal council performance, I do think is pretty good. I mean, she makes all the decisions, really. Her getting Sierra to give her the legacy advantage, that's very good. I do think that basically the entire game she made the decisions, and without her getting voted out, so very good. All right, Ben, I guess has to be F tier because the only reason, and I do think that Mike is probably a better player than Ben. I mean, I like Ben as a character. I love Ben as a character, but as a winner, it's like the only reason why he got there is because he found idol after idol after idol after idol. And while that is impressive, I mean, still, and also he is greatly, greatly helped out by the thing is Ben has no idea that the Final Four fire making challenge happens, and I wouldn't knock him massively if it was just towards that season. But now it looks like they're going to use that more often, so I don't knock him as much, but I still knock him because he had no idea that was going to happen. He 1,000,000% goes home if the Final Four fire making didn't happen, but it happens. He gets there. I think his tribal council performance though was really good, but he's still F. Wendell I'll put in B because even though I think like he dominated the entire game, I think it's very clear through the way the edit of the TV show showed us that Dominic was the one making all the decisions. I think that's very obvious. I think that Dominic was the one making all the decisions, and Wendell's in second in command. I mean, he did play the idol for Lauren, which I guess doesn't hurt if he does, when Lauren has to choose who to vote for. I do think his final trial performance is good, but I think that Dominic made all the decisions. I think that Dominic basically made that masterful move, the final six, which actually hurts him, hurts his jury votes. I mean, Dominic had 5 locked votes coming in the tribal council. He just needed to flip one. He couldn't. I think Dominic is the closest person to not being a winner. I do think the reason why, I do think that the thing is, I think all of Dominic's votes he got were pro-Dominic votes. I do think that there are some votes that Wendell got that were anti-Dominic votes. And also, it's been confirmed after the season that Sebastian and Lauren, whatever, oh, sorry, Kellen. I don't know why I said Lauren. Sebastian Kellen were drunk during the final tribal council, which, I mean, do I think they still vote for Wendell? Probably if they're sober, but still, I would have preferred them not being drunk at the final tribal council. But, you know, Wendell still was one of the helping make the decisions, whatever. All right, Nick Wilson, got to put in an A, right? I mean, even the thing is, a lot of people will say that Nick Wilson would have been the first boot if Pat wasn't medically evacuated, which, I mean, I don't think that's a foregone conclusion, but, like, we don't 100% know. But the fact that he's able to come from being on the bottom and being one of the most dominant players the entire season is great. Obviously, the John Hennigan blindside, one of the best blindsides ever in Survivor history. That was such a good blindside. And then him basically the entire game making a bunch of decisions, even though the Davey boot he didn't really want to happen. He still made a lot of the decisions. And I mean, still, you got to give him that John Hennigan blindside, which is, I think, probably one of the best moves in Survivor history. I mean, the minority's able to split the vote and get one of the people in the majority out. That's very impressive. I think his final tribal was pretty good, and he wins in a pretty dominant fashion. So I've got to give him that. All right, worst winner. Yeah, I mean, Chris Underwood did something that all the other winners of Survivor didn't do. He got voted out. I think that's enough. I think that's enough to say that he got voted out. But he missed so much. He's the third person voted out, and he comes back in final six. And mind you, I think he does everything he can do to win the game. Once he gets brought back in, he got voted out, and that's why he's the worst. I mean, I think he is a better player than probably some of these players right here. I think he has more game ability than them, but he was voted out. Like, come on. I know that a lot of people didn't want Tommy to win. I mean, mind you, I didn't want to either because it would have been very obvious. He got a winner's out of through and through. He still deserved to win, though. He played a very, very good game. Very dominant game. The fact he's on the top the entire time and never once does anyone want to vote him out. That's pretty impressive. He almost goes home in the Missy Tribal Council, but it's fine. And his final tribal performance, very good. His only flaw in the game was because Jason got voted out, but that was only because, I mean, an advantage got used against him, which you couldn't have seen happen. I think that Tommy is a very good player. I think it's very sad that the Idols turned out the way it was with the dance stuff, because if it wasn't for that, I do think Tommy gets looked at as a better winner. All right, SS tier, right? If we can make an SS tier here, actually, yeah, let's do it. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. I guess let's make add a row above SS. What just happened? What am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. Delete row. That. Why? What did I just do? I don't even know what I'm doing. Add a row above. Alright. Delete row. Put this row above that. Call this row SS. And then put these two people right here. I think that Tony's winners at Wargame, first of all, is super impressive because he won against all winners. And it's also because he's Tony. How is Tony able to get to the final tribal without any votes the entire season ever being casted towards him? That's so impressive, right? I gotta fix this, hold up. I mean, the fact that he goes the entire season, obviously, everyone knows Tony's game, and he never gets one vote casted towards him. And the only knocks I have against him is that he would have went home at the final 5 if he didn't win immunity, but that was only because Natalie came back from Edge of Extinction and had an idol. That's really the only, and the only time he's on the outs of the vote is the Ben vote, which it wasn't even his fault because Ben wanted to give his game up for Sarah. Those are the only two things you can really knock against him. I think he's played socially so well. He played the game strategically so well. And, yeah, I mean, you can't knock Tony that much because the only thing you knock him towards is stuff that was out of his control, which was one Edge of Extinction, which I don't like, and someone had to play an idol. So, I mean, yeah, that's the list. Worst winner ever is Chris Underwood, which like I said, I do think he has more game ability than some of these winners, but he got voted out. And these are the two best winners, Kim Spradlin and Tony Wacos. So yeah, that's my winners tier list. If you guys have enjoyed this little live stream I did, and thank you.